Chapter 3 The Orb. The plans were in place. The escape had to look real so that it wouldn't leak that it was fake. Over the next few days, Ryder met with Samuels a few times and discussed the story he would give to his father when he returned to him. Ryder carefully planned every detail of the escape with him to ensure believability. For one, it seemed unrealistic that Samuels could overpower Beccario. Ryder bribed Beccario to collaborate the story by offering him an extended vacation and first choice of weapons for the next mission if he allowed Samuels to win the fight and escape. Ryder leaked some doctored video to the news channels to initiate a string of rumors and gossip in Samuels' favor about what happened at Gemini. All that was left was for Samuels to execute the escape plan. Keeping Samuels in private detention protected him from facing others, and Ryder made sure to use some of his most trusted soldiers with the task of guarding him. While they hadn't located the EOA yet, Samuels remembered a special broadcast channel he was given from Captain Dune before they left for Gemini. The hope was that the frequency would still work, and once he was in Earth's orbit, he could signal a rescue. It was just after 4 in the morning when Samuels complained of massive pain in his chest. Beccario, resting in a chair just outside the door, heard his complaints and opened the door to check. As Beccario got near him, Samuels threw up violently at his feet. The vomit was red and looked like blood. It was actually cherry juice that Ryder gave Samuels to drink in their meeting earlier in the day. Then Samuels tackled Beccario, who slipped on the cherry juice vomit and fell onto his back. Samuels moved fast, grabbing the taser on Beccario's belt and giving him a full jolt. This wasn't enough to completely incapacitate the massive Beccario, but when Samuels hit him with his own pistol across the face 3 times, he was rendered unconscious briefly. Samuels rushed out the door, locking it as he went. Ryder had shown him the schematics for the orb, so he knew exactly which way to go to reach the escape shuttles. Because of the early morning hour, there was only one guard roaming the area. Samuels waited 3 minutes for the guard to turn toward the front shuttles, and then he used Beccario's emergency card to open the airlock and enter the shuttle. While not the best pilot, Samuels knew how to fly the shuttle from his time on the moon, and Ryder gave him the manual a few days before to study. All told, it was no more than 12 minutes from the time he hit Beccario to the time the shuttle accelerated away from the orb. As soon as he was free of the orb, Samuels tuned the frequency to the setting given to him by Dune, and he started broadcasting his position and who he was. The orb was a geostationary space station, and as long as Samuels stayed out of their sensors, they wouldn't know where he was for a while. Ryder also made sure to delay the red alert so that Samuels would have time to get far away before the security team went after him. After a few hours of broadcasting the message, Samuels was beginning to get a little worried as he saw from his own sensors that there was an orb security team approaching. They had to make it look real. Ryder told him that if they got close enough, Samuels was to land somewhere in Atlanta and just hope there were EOA members still there. That was an unnecessary move, though, when he saw the blinking on his panel. Someone was trying to contact him. He pushed the button and responded, "This is John Samuels. Who is this?" There was static for a moment, and then the response came back. "John Samuels, son of Paul and grandson of Sebastian?" "That is correct. Now come get me. The soldiers are coming," Samuels said, this trying to put as much urgency as he could in his voice. "If this is really John, then you can tell me the name of your first pet," the voice said. "It was a Great Dane named Goliath, of course, for its massive size. Now pick me up," Samuels demanded. As he said this, he felt the docking clamps click into place. Then the airlock opened and Talbot floated in. "John, it is good to see you. We thought you died on the Gemini." "Your intel was incorrect. I am alive, but I'm on the run, so we must go to my father now." "Understood. Climb into my ship while I prepare the ship for destruction." John grabbed the handholds and floated past Talbot and into the ship. Talbot swung around and landed in front of the shuttle's controls. Moving his hands quickly over the controls, he set the program and hit the timer for 1 minute. After returning to his ship, he released the clamp to the shuttle and quickly maneuvered away from it. Then he launched down through the atmosphere. Chapter 4, Earth's Orbit. "What do you see?" Ryder asked from his room on the orb. "Sir, we are approaching the shuttle now. It seems to be just floating there," the pilot said. Is Samuels aboard? Sir, I am reading one life form on the ship. Wait, something is happening, the pilot said, raising his voice. Report! Ryder ordered. Sir, the ship has changed course and is heading directly into the Earth. My God, I don't think he can pull up from this. Time ticked by, and then the pilot sent a video to Ryder. He just killed himself. There was no escape from that. He flew his ship directly into the mountains below. Any chance you were able to find the ship and the body? Ryder said. Sir, I don't see how this is possible. The ship exploded on impact. We are just over the mountain range near Mount Everest. I don't see any way we could even search for the wreckage there. But as you can see from the video, there's no way he could survive that. I just don't understand why he would escape just to kill himself. The pilot said this, clearly shaken by what he saw. It is okay, Lieutenant Cutward. He was a member of the EOA. As you know, many of them decide that suicide is better than remaining captured. You are ordered to return to the orb. Thank you, sir. I am turning around and returning home. Ryder clicked off the intercom. Beccario was standing next to him, holding an ice pack to his bleeding lip. Well? Beccario asked. Well, it went even better than we expected. Samuels is on his way to the ex-vice chairman and will hopefully lead us to the EOA, Ryder said, looking up from the control panel with a satisfied grin. I hope you are right, sir, Beccario nodded. Now, about my promised vacation time. Chapter 5, Queen's Headquarters, EOA, somewhere in Canada. John Samuels released the straps holding him to the seat. The ship was secured in the hangar. The original ship that they were on landed somewhere in China, and then they switched to another ship, then another, and finally a third before reaching this spot. There's someone who is going to be very happy to see you, John, Talbot said, getting up from his own seat. John got to his feet and staggered a little. He tried to remember how long it was since he was standing in Earth's gravity. Hopefully this mission won't take too long and I can get back to the low gravity in space, Samuels thought, as he grabbed the side of the seat to steady himself. Then, taking short steps, he made it to the exit door and down the ramp. As John came out of the door, he heard his father exclaim, John, thank God you were safe. When he reached the bottom of the ramp, his father grabbed him with both arms and hugged him tightly. While John was short, stocky, and built like a soldier, his father, Paul Samuels, was tall and lanky, giving off a more stately appearance. Politics was the perfect career for him. He looked the part. Thank you, Father. I am glad to be back with you. John hugged him back, surprised that he was happy at the moment. His father never hugged him. He was usually yelling or hitting. Either way, his father was genuinely disappointed in him. So this was something different, and a welcome change. Paul led his son out of the hangar and through a door into the underground hallway. John looked around as he walked. They were clearly in an EOA compound, as the motto was hanging on many of the walls. It was always the same, a piece of wood with a saying carved into it. God has given you all the earth, plants, and animals. For these you will be master. John had the saying memorized by age 2, not because he wanted to, but because his father demanded it. As they walked, Paul was sharing so many things that happened with his son, but most of all he sounded proud of him, which was something strange and new. They reached the end of the hallway, and a door was opened into a plush conference room. Paul pulled out a chair for John, then took a chair next to him. Plates of food arrived and drinks. Please, son, eat up. I know the journey was difficult, but before we do, let us pray. Paul bowed his head, and John followed suit. Lord Almighty, I can't thank you enough for bringing my son back to me, for allowing him to survive and return to your organization. Now he is with us, and I pray that he is ready for the next step in our journey to salvation. Our thoughts are with you always. Amen. John responded in kind. Amen, then lifted his head. As they started to dig into the food, John couldn't help but wonder why the change in his father. He didn't want to risk asking, but he felt compelled to. Father, may I ask you a question? Of course, John, anything, Paul said, scooping some of the rice onto his plate. Father, he paused for a few minutes before starting over. Father, I'm surprised by your reaction to seeing me. I thought you would be mad. Why would you think that, John? Paul looked at him puzzled. Well, because the mission failed, and the Gemini wasn't destroyed, John said, looking down for a moment, waiting for the anger to begin. Paul looked directly at him for a moment with a frown, but then it turned to a slight smile. John, That wasn't your fault. Now, I'm a little perturbed that Cooper Richardson is still alive, but that was Captain Doone's fault. He is the man that failed us. But really, when it comes down to, is that Ryder found a way to save them all again. That is not something you could have known about or stopped. My father Sebastian caused that. He had Ryder in his grasp. But instead of killing him for all the things he has done, he tried to convert him. This allowed Ryder time to plan an escape. Oh, I was so mad at first at everyone. I gave up on myself for a while, even beginning to question God and our mission. However, after a few weeks praying in detention, I realized that it was all part of God's plan. While that mission failed, there are still many more opportunities for success. And then I thought, who better to be by my side to finally bring everyone back to Earth? Well, my son, of course. I was so sure you were dead on Gemini. I just hoped that the reports were incorrect, and I prayed you would find a way to come back to me. And then, to my joy, I saw a report a week ago that you were alive and in detention. Then Talbot tells me that you have escaped the orb and you are coming back to me. I couldn't believe it. My prayers to God were answered. Paul smiled again and reached over to touch his son's shoulder. Thank you, Father. I am happy to be back with you as well. John knew he was lying when he said this, but it was weird. He never saw his father like this before. John wondered, has he turned over a new leaf? I am a little unclear as to what happened, though, John. All of our agents on Gemini were killed, so we only have bits and pieces of information about the mission. Major Ryder prepped John for these questions. He gave him the evidence he needed to ensure that when the time came, he would be able to tell a plausible story that showed his dedication to the EOA, while making it seem like the failure was left to others. He started. Of course, Father. I will tell you anything you want to know. You see, it started when we landed at Gemini. Captain Doone met with Rick Goodman. Rick told him that things weren't going well. While the pirates successfully took over the station, there were many uprisings that needed to be stopped. The plan was to have me talk to Cooper into joining us while the captain and Rick tried to stop the fight. I was given a handheld that showed videos of the motor pool so that I knew just the right time to blow the doors and find Cooper. As it turns out, there was a perfect time. When I got to the motor pool, I noticed that Sergeant Bolts was walking with others toward the lockers in the back. Paul cut him off. That man is pure evil. He killed some of our best agents. Yes, Father, John continued. Bolts was getting into what looked like a storage locker. It looked like he found a passageway out of the motor pool. It turns out it led straight to a ventilation shaft near the control room. Anyway, when I saw that Cooper was going to be the last to enter, I blew the doors, then entered. I called Cooper, hoping that I could use our relationship to coax him out. Yes, John, that was the plan. Go on. Well, Cooper came out from behind the supply ship for a moment. I tried to persuade him, but he quickly shook his head and ran behind the supply ship. I fired my rifle at him, but he was too quick. By the time I got behind the ship after him, he already went through the locker and locked it up. I reached the locker and noticed it was locked, and I couldn't see Cooper inside. I was about to find something to break the lock and pursue him when Captain Doone and Rick arrived in the motor pool. I came out from behind the supply ship and told them what happened. By this point, there wasn't much time left until the bomb went off, so they told me we were headed to the escape ship. But Bolts must have told someone where we were because as we turned to leave, a flash grenade exploded below our feet. The space station soldiers came into the motor pool firing at us. We fired back, but then Doone went down, and so did Rick. I fought by hiding behind their bodies for cover, but when the second flash grenade exploded, I was blinded and couldn't figure out where to fire. The soldiers surrounded me and hit me so hard I blacked out. When I woke up, I was on the battle cruiser locked in isolation. From there, I was taken to the orb and locked in detention for the past few weeks. John stopped and took a drink of juice from his glass while hoping that his father would believe the story. Ryder tried his best to make the story follow what really happened. This would make it easier for John to lie without having to remember too much. He looked up into his father's eyes, and there were tears. John, his father started, but then stopped, his voice wavering. I am so proud of you. To think I could have lost you on the Gemini. The story I heard is that Cooper was the one that stopped the bomb, but I just don't believe it. He's just a kid. It must have been Ryder. If he hadn't figured out how to disable the bomb, it would have exploded, and you would have been killed with everyone else. You are my only son. Why, oh, why did I send you on that mission? He looked to the heavens as he said this. Son, I owe you an apology. You did everything I asked you to do, and I almost got you killed. I love you, John, and I will keep you with me and protect you from now on. John honestly couldn't believe what he was hearing. He wondered, is this the same man who used to lock me up for days and beat me until I begged for mercy? Now John felt conflicted. He finally was seeing the love of his father, but he wasn't here for that. He was here to stop him. He wasn't hard to play the part. It wasn't hard to play the part considering he wanted this love and admiration from his father for so long. Father, thank you. I love you too. Paul got up, came over, and gave John a hug while murmuring thanks to God under his breath. Chapter 6. The Orb, Earth's Orbit. There was a knock at the door. Ryder turned and ordered, Enter! It was recently promoted Lieutenant Katie Jewell. She nodded to Ryder as she took a seat across from him. So, Katie, what have you heard? Ryder said, setting his handheld down. Sir, Samuel's ship was met by the EOA ship. However, as soon as they picked up John, they sent his ship to blow up on the mountains. We were able to track their ship towards Earth, but not able to see exactly where it landed. It was somewhere in China, but that is all we know. They probably ditched that ship and switched to another, maybe even a third ship. Katie said this while shaking her head. What is it? Ryder asked. He worked with Katie long enough to know that when she wasn't happy about something. Sir, I'm just not sure this was the best move. Can we really trust Samuels? Are we sure that he is on our side? Ryder took a moment and looked out the window to Earth. Somewhere down there is the last major EOA headquarters, Ryder thought. Turning back to Katie, he answered, The thing about John Samuels is that he is a good person with a terrible family history. But when it really matters, John does the right thing. We know this from the fact that he helped Cooper save Chi on the moon, and when he saved all of us by getting Cooper to the nuclear bomb so he could disarm it. Sir, what if his father welcomes him with open arms? Won't he reconsider? That is a possibility. We are taking a risk here. But what other leads do we have right now? Ryder asked. Katie just shrugged. We will just have to wait and see, Katie. Then changing the subject. Do we have any other information about the EOA? How are the interrogations going? Katie looked down at her handheld before answering. Well, Beccario is working with the interrogation team. There just isn't a lot of new knowledge. We were able to confirm that there is another major headquarters labeled Queen, but no one knows where it is. Blast it! Someone has to know more. We must find these people before they attack again, Ryder said, the frustration evident in his voice. Damn! We were able to find out more information when we were just a small covert operation. Now we have the entire military at our disposal, and the EOA is still a threat. Well, Katie said, at least you were able to stop the pirate threat. That is true, Ryder said, conceding and calming a little. The progress to move the two space groups to their new locations was progressing well. It is amazing what a person can accomplish when in charge. And how goes the progress on the Mayflower? Ryder asked, hoping for some better news there. Katie looked down at her device again. Well, now that Bites is on the team, they are able to move faster to ready the technology, especially the suspended animation pods. I didn't know he knew much about that technology, Ryder said. As it turns out, he figured out the systems quickly and actually improved their efficiency in only a few days. Now he is working with them to get the new drive systems online. He is predicting they will be able to get back to the 4-month launch date, despite all the setbacks from the previous EOA attacks. Wow, that is great! Ryder tried to sound enthusiastic, but in the back of his mind, he knew that meant even less time before he would lose Cooper forever. And what is the status of Operation Seeding? Ryder asked. Sir, I am working on trying to line up the funding right now. I have Major Tracker working with the World Space Congress to lobby for the initiative to be pushed through quicker. Your name is going a long way with them right now. Excellent, Katie. Thank you for the updates. How are you doing? Are you settling in? Ryder asked with genuine concern. Well, sir, you know I'm not much for staying in one place. I'm trying Don't give up, Katie. This might be good for you. It is time we start putting the past behind us. I know the EOA is still a concern, but we have wiped out most of their headquarters, so hopefully we can start looking to the future. That is what Operation Seeding is all about. I will try, sir, I promise. Permission to go? Thank you, Katie. You are dismissed. As Katie got up to leave, Ryder wondered if she would be able to adapt to the life again in a more natural setting. After seeing her family wiped out in space, he wasn't sure if she would ever be able to live a normal life again. When he was promoted, he felt that Katie would be a perfect person to be his assistant. She was always organized, and he knew that she thought of him as her only family. Plus, he wanted to make sure she stayed safe. Would Katie ever consider going to the stars? She may be a good choice for the Mayflower, Ryder thought. He quickly dismissed the thought, as he knew she would likely never want to fly in a ship like that again. Plus, when Cooper left, it would be nice to have Katie around. She was almost like a daughter to him, but he would never tell her that. Ryder was happy to hear that Operation Seeding was moving forward. After saving Armstrong Moon Base and helping with the Gemini space station rescue, he was in a perfect position to push forward his initiative. It was a bold one. He was seeking funding to build many more interstellar ships. One thing he learned from saving Cooper was that there were people on Earth who were dying. In direct opposition to the EOA's goals, Ryder was trying to populate all of the universe with people from Earth. It was more than just sending additional ships to Spare, although that was part of the plan. His other goal was to look to the other stars and find more planets. There were 4 other potential planets that were identified, and it was time to start pursuing them as well. For too long, mankind has clung to one planet, and it is time for us to colonize other worlds as well, Ryder thought. Chapter 7, Queen's Headquarters. Life in the Queen EOA headquarters was simple, but busy. After getting settled in, John was allowed to roam through the facility freely. As the son of the great vice chairman father, Paul Samuels, and the grandson of the recently deceased father Sebastian Samuels, John was treated like royalty. He still couldn't believe how his father was acting. He never treated John with such affection and respect. It made it difficult for John to think about betraying him, but he had his orders from Ryder. He was sitting in the lounge area when he heard someone call his name. He looked up to see Talbot. John remembered Talbot even as a young child. He was always around the family, looking over everything, keeping everyone on track. Many times he would disappear for months on end, but always return to their family compound in New Atlanta. When they lived underground, just like everyone else because of his father's rank, their house actually reached up to the surface. They couldn't go outside, of course, but John remembers sitting in the moon room, as he called it, late at night watching the moon and the stars pass by, dreaming of one day leaving the earth. He never told his family of this, of course. He knew how they all felt about space, but he could still dream. John, your father needs to see you, Talbot ordered, breaking him out of his daydream. John got up, put his cup away, and followed Talbot. As they walked, Talbot turned to John. So, are you happy to be back on Earth with your father? Well, John said, choosing his words carefully. He does seem happier than I remember him. Yes, Talbot nodded. Paul seems to be taking to his new role with vigor. It is interesting. I remember when our father, Sebastian, returned from certain death on a space station. It was like he was reborn anew. I see those same feelings in your father now that he is free of his World Congress responsibility and can focus all of his energy on the EOA. I'm surprised at all this, John said, waving to everything around them. I was under the impression that the military fought back the EOA attack and there was nothing left. Well, Talbot said, we have always we always knew the final solution was risky and might not succeed. It was a setback that the bombs didn't detonate at Armstrong and Gemini. It is hard to believe that Ryder was able to solve all of that on his own. Then, with a little bit of accusation in his voice, he asked, how do you think he made it all the way from the battle at Armstrong to Gemini just in time to stop that bomb? John noted the tone, and it worried him a little. Talbot always seemed to be much more intelligent than the rest of his family. He would have to be careful not to reveal anything else in case Talbot was able to figure out the lies. So John said, adding sarcasm and irritation, "Well, he is the great writer." "Yes," Talbot agreed. "This is true, but the timeline just doesn't seem physically possible." Then, looking directly into Samuel's eye, he hesitated for a moment, stopped, and opened the door. "Your father is here waiting for you." John thanked him and entered. Paul got up from the table and walked over and gave him a huge hug. "John, it is so good to see you. Are you settling in okay? I am sorry that we are unable to go home to New Atlanta. As you know, this isn't possible with me on the run, and you as well, of course." They sat down together at the table. John noticed that Talbot was there as well, but he was sitting off in the corner working on his handheld. "John, I think it's time we start talking about your future with the EOA. As you know, we had some minor setbacks with the Final Solution mission, but we always knew that might not succeed, so we have some backup plans ready." Sitting up, John realized this might be when he would get the information he needed, so he could get off this planet and go back to the stars. He just needed enough detail to give Ryder what he wanted. "Yes, Father, I am ready to join you on the next mission. Can I ask what the plan is?" "John, I am so excited that we are working side by side. However, I don't know if I'm ready yet to give you the full details. We are still working them out. I want you to prepare, though, as this mission will take you to the stars. But I promise we will return to Earth, and then you can return to your home. For a first step, I need your help. I know that this is your specialty, so I'm hoping that you can help me train some of our newer EOA members." "Of course, Father, anything you need. I have trained soldiers before in basic and in advanced training." Paul looked over to Talbot, who looked up from his handheld and nodded. "Good. Then it is decided. You will help with weapons and tactical training, and then we will talk later about the bigger plan. Would you mind waiting outside for a couple minutes? I have to talk to Talbot briefly, then he will walk you down to the weapons area." "Of course, Father. I am so happy to be with you again," John lied, but as it turns out, it didn't take that much. He was surprised at his feelings at the moment. As he said to Talbot, his father was different somehow. John wondered again if maybe he had changed. Then he got up and went outside to wait. When the door closed, Talbot got up and came to the table. "See, I told you, Talbot. He is ready to join us," Paul said enthusiastically. "We need to be careful, Father. I still don't trust him. I know that his story seems reasonable, but there are still some holes that don't add up." "What holes, Talbot? You said this before, but my son fought valiantly, and even though he didn't kill Cooper, he did fight at Gemini," Paul said dismissively. "My father, the timeline just doesn't make sense. We know when they set the bomb to blow, and we know when Ryder arrived at Gemini. There is no way he could have made it to the bay to stop the bomb. Someone else stopped it. I just can't believe that Cooper Richardson could have done it on his own. What if John helped him?" "Talbot, don't ever say anything like that again, or even think it. John is my son, and he has always been on our side. If Ryder or whoever had not stopped the bomb, then my son would be dead now. It is a miracle he is here, and we will welcome him into our organization again." Talbot was shaking his head slowly. "But, Father, I don't know if we can trust him." "Enough of this!" Paul yelled, his face red with rage. "John is my son, and I trust him completely. And you will too. That is an order. Now take him down to the weapons area, and I will meet with him in a few weeks to tell him the full plan. You are dismissed, Talbot." Talbot winced at the anger inflicted on him. Then he acquiesced and said, "Yes, my father." "That is better." Talbot got up and walked to the door and left quietly. Paul was furious and took the glass that was in his hand and threw it against the wall, where it shattered into hundreds of pieces. Paul took a few deep breaths and tried to calm himself down. The weapons area, as his father called it, was simply a small warehouse space tucked in the back of the EOA facility. When John and Talbot entered, the room got quiet. John looked at the soldiers that stood before him. They were certainly a ragtag bunch. Talbot called them to formation. The men dropped their weapons they were using carelessly and walked nonchalantly to the lineup. They didn't seem like they really wanted to be here. Talbot went to the front of the formation and addressed them. At ease, EOA soldiers, I am pleased to introduce Captain John Samuels to you. John just arrived from Gemini, where he had battled the military as he fought to destroy it. Somehow I just got a large promotion, thought Samuels. There were snickers from the back, as all the soldiers knew about the failure that took place during the final solution. Talbot raised his voice over the snickers. Hey! God is watching. You will respect the authority. This quieted everyone down. Captain Samuels is fresh out of training, where he learned the latest techniques of the military. He is invaluable to the missions going forward, and you will listen to him. He is now your leader, and remember, he is the son of the vice chairman, our true leader, Father Paul Samuels. The soldiers looked at John. John looked back to the faces of what were now his men. They looked at him with resentment mostly, although there was a little bit of awe in some of their eyes. Well, now is my chance to prove to my father I can be a leader, John thought as he called them to attention.